Well, good afternoon. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click your live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. I'm Celeste Giordano, your show host for the next hour on global legacy and wealth building. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on X, and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. Subscribe to our free YouTube channel at WCEG Network. We also have platforms with Apple. And last but not least, our disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. And Happy New Year to our WCEG Network family. What a wonderful and blessed day it is today to be here. This is our 6th year as a co-host and a host, I should say, myself and Sarah as a co-host part-time with us on WCEG Network. And I want to thank Penny Rogers, the founder, and the board members of WCEG Network for this platform that gives us the opportunity to speak life in the community about amazing things that's going on, whether it's business, whether it's has to do with veterans and so many other different things that we have this opportunity because of the WCEG network family, and our hearts love your hearts for this opportunity. I am very grateful and honored to have a special guest with us today. Clare was with us last year in January, and some of you may have seen Clare on the show with us, but Clare Schmurr is retired, or rather repurposed, doctor of pharmacy and diabetes specialist. She has transitioned into holistic health coaching to make a deeper impact on metabolic health and disease prevention. Today, she helps clients transform their nutrition, movement, and metabolism and mindset so they can optimize their weight safely, reduce chronic disease risk, and truly thrive. Passionate about empowering women and families, she focuses on habit building, community, and uncovering the why that makes transformation sustainable. Her mission is simple: healthier people, stronger families, and a ripple effect that lasts for generations. Please join me in welcoming our friend and your friend, Clare Schmurr. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you, Celeste. I appreciate that. It's always an honor to contribute to your show.
Absolutely. And, we are just so glad to have you here. Last year was the first time the WCEG and we hosted you on this show, and I knew of you from our networking groups up in Cincinnati. I've always been impressed with you and your knowledge, your education. You speak from the heart. You have the education to go with the knowledge, and where when you speak about something, it's not something that you just learn from somebody else. You've got a degree, you've been a pharmacist, you're retired or repurposed, as you say, and you helped so many people last year. And I've watched you over the years, the people that you help. I have followed you on the social media, and it's like, what better way to kick off the year than to have Clare Schmurr with us and talk about our health? Because if we don't have health, we don't have anything.
Exactly. It's your primary goal is your health.
Absolutely. I mean, you can have all the goals you want to be prosperous, to be healthy, to be happy, or, to have love, abundance of this and abundance of that. But without health, you can't achieve any of those things.
Exactly. You can have a million problems, but if you don't have your health, you have one.
Absolutely. And before we dive into the show here today, Clare, I meant to do this a few minutes ago. What I wanted to do for our audience and listeners, we're so grateful to have you with us here today. We want to make sure that if you have any questions that you drop them in the chat box, because Clare will be glad to answer any questions that you have. But I also think it's very appropriate as we're kicking off this year. We have so many things going on around the world right now. And I don't want to bring politics into anything, but I just want to ask us just to take a moment of silence and say a prayer. I mean, we need to pray for our own country right now. We need to pray for Ukraine. We need to pray for Venezuela. We need to pray for Iran right now. I have friends and family, not family, but I have friends who have friends and family over
Right.
there, and they haven't been able to speak to their friends and family for going on 4 or 5 days right now. So as I open up here, I just want to say, let's just take a moment of silence. Let's say a prayer for our countries and our nation. And I want us to pray for unity and love and peace amongst all of us. So if we just take a moment of silence. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I know we have a mutual friend that has family over there in Iran right now, and I have other friends that are family that have family over there. And I know people over, and we've had Becky Rulin on this show before, who televised came on the radio show live from Ukraine when they were in war 2 years ago. I think it was when it first started. So we have a lot of active participants on WCEG Network, and we just need to continue to pray for these countries and families every day. Well, I'm ready to dive in, Claire. How about you?
All right, let's do this.
Let's do it. So tell us a little bit about your pharmacy career and what you learned from your different roles. And I love that we start out with this because we have people that are coaches and people that health coach or life coach, business coach, whatever. But talking about your career as a pharmacy career, it edifies what I just opened up with about the knowledge and education of where you come from. So I want you to be very specific in that, please.
Okay, well, after almost a 50-year pharmacy career, I should giving away my age, but a lot of pharmacists start in retail, and I did my 15-year stint in retail, and it was I couldn't go back. I could not go back. There's just the demands that are on the retail pharmacist. From there, I had a little stint in mail order pharmacy, but then I went into long-term care. So nursing homes, assisted living homes, and it's a requirement that all long-term care establishments have a consultant pharmacist review charts every month, once a month. And that really taught me how to approach care by a more holistic approach, because I'm looking at the chart and to evaluate, is this drug appropriate? Are they missing a drug? But my kind of favorite thing to do was to deprescribe. So, seeing something that probably was meant to be a short-term therapy, asking the doctor, is this medication still necessary? If not, taper it off or remove it. And, had great response with that. So because I was very involved in more the clinical aspect, that I decided to go back to school, yes, with a clinical career and 2 children, went back to school for my pharmacy doctorate and from the Ohio State University, OH. That was really, I'm so glad I did that, because the professor wanted everybody to pick a disease state and develop a clinical care pathway and project to address that disease state. And I thought diabetes was kind of interesting, so I picked diabetes. Little did I know it would bite me in the you-know-what and cause me to become so incredibly passionate about diabetes care, especially preventing diabetes. And I wish more, when I developed that care path, I was then hired as a contractor through TriHealth in Cincinnati, and had 20 physicians. So I had a collaborative care agreement with 20 physicians, and they would just send me the chart, diabetes management, and I could adjust medications, add or subtract insulin, order labs. But I wish more physicians would have done this with pre-diabetic patient, the person that was just starting to show some elevated fasting blood sugars or starting to gain some weight, things like that. I wish that would have done. So it's been quite a career path. After that, I was I had my own practice, and then towards the end I was a medical science liaison for Sanofi in the diabetes realm. So instead of dealing with patients, I'm dealing with the practitioners and educating them. So a medical science liaison is the scientific person of a pharmaceutical company, not the sales force. So we had to never meet in the middle. So and that was very interesting. And from there, I retired. But I became a health coach maybe three years before I retired. So I knew I would have purpose after retirement by being a health coach. So pretty much tells the story.
Absolutely. And one thing that you said that really interested me is that you wish that they had you work with people who were pre-diabetic, because that thing sort of just slips up on people, doesn't? I mean, we sort of get the blood work and we see we're getting closer and we're inching closer and things of this nature. And then you just think, okay, I'll work on it, and then you go back, and I don't know about other people that are listening here today, but I get my blood work done every 90 days. I only have one kidney, so I get my blood work done every 90 days to see where it's at.
Sure.
And and then you go and it's like, okay, well, you're inching up a little closer for pre-diabetes. And then next time, well, you sort of went down a little. But, people just think it's not going to happen to me. And then one day, I guess what happens, Claire, and correct me if I'm wrong, you go in there and you're in full stage diabetes. Is that right?
That's right. And I don't think enough doctors emphasize the fact that somebody has pre-diabetes and it can be reversed. And that's the time to get it reversed. So that's where I became very passionate about what I do, because of what I taught people with diabetes is we want to reduce insulin resistance. And I can describe insulin resistance. Have you heard of that before, Celeste?
I have.
Okay. So insulin resistance is the body has become resistant to your own insulin. So when you eat a meal that has sugar or glucose in it, however you want to refer it, your blood sugar goes up. And your pancreas, which is a little organ off the side of the stomach, releases insulin. Insulin unlocks the cells and allows the fuel to go in the cells, and the blood sugars come right back down to normal again. Well, these days people are overabundance in the carbohydrates. So people who keep eating higher sugar content, processed foods, high carbohydrate meals, the blood sugar keeps going up and up and up. Well, the pancreas just makes more and more insulin, unlocks the cells, and puts the fuel where it's supposed to go. The problem is the body doesn't like high blood sugar levels, and it also doesn't like high insulin levels. So it develops a resistance to that insulin. Well, when that insulin resistance happens, now the pancreas has to secrete even more insulin because it's got to get over that resistance. Well, eventually the pancreas starts petering out, and that's when the blood sugars stay high because the pancreas can't make enough blood sugar or make enough insulin. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to lower the blood sugar spikes. If we can lower the blood sugar spikes, we lower the insulin requirements, because excess insulin also acts as your fat storage hormone. And that's where people start gaining a pound here and 5 pounds there because they're insulin resistant. They have high insulin levels, and that insulin is causing fat storage. So that's, it's not just weight, it's metabolism. That's part of your metabolism.
Absolutely. Now, my father had diabetes, and my brother has diabetes. My sister, my mother, and I never had diabetes. And also, over the years with my brother, and they've got it under control now, Claire, is I guess your body sometimes does not work with certain insulin. You have to find the right insulin to. His wasn't working or whatever. It was working against him.
Oh, interesting. Does he have to take insulin?
Uh, yes, he does.
Okay. So he was deficient in his own insulin if they're adding insulin to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now they've got something and he's working really good for him, and he's losing weight and doing well, and
Oh,
that's
very
good.
good. Very
But
good.
but I've noticed myself, they kept saying, you're not there, Celeste, but you keep inching up. And it's just like, I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on it.
Okay. Maybe we should talk.
We definitely need to
Yeah.
talk because I do not want to have diabetes. All right. So, but
It's fine.
my point being for our listeners here, and if you have any questions for Claire, please put them in the chat. We'd love to answer those questions. Is, I know people that get their blood work done regularly. I know people who don't get their blood work done regularly. And this is something, as I guess it can happen at any age, but as you get older, as you're celebrating a milestone this year, I'm celebrating my 70th milestone in March. And so, my husband and I, our health is top of our priorities right now, because we don't want to be the person that has to take heart medicine or have to take diabetes medicine or anything like that. And Mike walks every day, 3 miles a day, not necessarily in Kentucky when it's cold, and I need to work more on that. But if we don't pay attention to it now, Claire, it's going to be harder to pay attention when it hits, right?
Right. It's easier to prevent than it is to reverse.
Right.
And I love the quote, Peter Attia's book is Outlive. And his opening quote was a quote by Bishop Desmond Tutu that said, we have to stop merely pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And so that's where he said, yeah, it's in my heart. And that's where we want health span to be as long as our lifespan. So we don't want to live till we're 80, but feel like crap. Sorry. For the last 10 years, so many people they just are not vibrant anymore. So we want our health span to be as long as our lifespan.
Well, and one thing that I'd like to add to this, and I know we've got several more questions, but it rolls right into the next thing, is today we have more families that are eating from the frozen food section or fast food instead of cooking home cooked meals and sitting down and having meals on a regular basis. I mean, I grew up, and I'm sure you did too, Claire. We grew up sitting down every single day, 7 days a week, having a family meal, and it was a home cooked meal. And it may not have been the fanciest, but it was a home cooked meal. And we didn't have all these additives and things that they put into the preservatives that they put into foods today. And but that was one thing that Mike and I went through with our blood works several years ago. We were eating all these foods that we thought were really, really healthy for us. And some of those foods that, weren't really healthy for us, like, sometimes like brown rice is not as good for you. I think I may have it backwards, that I have one kidney, that white rice is better than brown rice or something like that. And
it still depends on portion.
And so, portions as well. That's another issue that we have is people, what they're putting on their plates and these portions, and they go out and now you get, we only knew there was French fries. Now you go out, there's French fries with cheese, there's French fries with cheese and chili and this and that. It's like
scattered, smothered, covered, and chopped.
Now wait a minute, the Waffle House, I like the hash browns.
So a point on that, my boyfriend wore a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, and twice he went to Waffle House and had scattered, smothered, covered, and chunked hash browns, and that had spiked. Like it immediately spiked, and it's like, okay, he goes, I need to stop eating this. So, or start with protein and then half the portion, that type of thing. There's things that you can do. And it's interesting, you just brought up a key that's really to my heart, where that just came out, the HHS and USDA just came out with new food guidelines, and they turned the food pyramid upside down, which is kind of a good measure, but I still prefer the healthy plate because it's a picture. It's, first of all, it's using a 9-inch plate, which is more like a dessert plate than your dinner plate. Half of that plate should be non-starchy vegetables. a fourth should be your lean protein, and a fourth should be your healthy starch, like brown rice or sweet potatoes and not French fries. And then, when we were growing up, I bet you there was space in between all of those servings. So we didn't mound our plate up like a lot of people do now.
No, absolutely. And but you think about it today. I mean, families, not every family, but different. I guess age groups or generations or whatever, they come in and they went through. Not that I'm against Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A. I'm just saying that. Or they went through McDonald's, or they ordered pizza, or they're grabbing these appetizer stuff that's in the frozen food section and putting them out there. Because you have a husband and wife that's working, the younger generation, they got these kids, they got these sports, and that's another whole story in itself. Where these sports, where we went to school, they were done after, by 4 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, so you could go home and have a nice meal. Now they're getting out of these sports at 6 o'clock, and they're going through the drive-through to get the food, going home, and then they're eating late at night. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And that's just not a healthy thing. And when Mike and I are apart, and he's in Kentucky and I'm here, we have this thing every night that we send pictures to each other of what we're eating. And Mike has always got the beautiful healthy plate like you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking 70 minutes off my life tonight. I ate 2 hot dogs. He says 35 minutes for every hot dog you're taking off your life. And I said, okay, 70 minutes minus 70 minutes for me tonight.
I will never have a hot dog again.
That's his point. But it's just we definitely need to cook more, and we need to cook with fresh food. And the big thing, as you said, is portion control. I think I've always known that, but it really stuck with me last year when you were a guest about the portion control, because we don't realize restaurants, they serve you big stuff, which now with the cost of everything, they're skimping back or scaling back. But still, you look at those plates, and I mean, when Mike and I go out to eat, and I look, and I was like, how do they eat all that stuff?
Yeah. You should split it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it goes to waste, and that's what Mike and I say. We can each order a salad and order one meal and split that, and we're happy.
Exactly.
When we cook a sweet potato at home, I take half and he takes half.
Exactly. Just had a sweet potato sundae and split it with Jeff, and so it's like enormous.
Absolutely. So when or how did health coaching become a passion for you, Claire?
Well, I guess as I mentioned, it happened when I had my own practice, and I realized what an impact I could have on somebody by just changing habits, getting up and moving more, portion control, decreasing carbohydrate content, learning what complex carbs are versus simple carbs, things like that. And then I found Optavia. So that's who I coach for. I've been coaching for Optavia for about 5 years now. And I love the name Optavia because it's an optimal vehicle for optimal health. And we're not just a weight loss company, we're an optimal health company. And that's where the metabolic synchronization is coming in. So they took their clinical trials, specifically the last one that they did of a 16-week double-blind controlled trial, and submitted it to the FDA. And the FDA came back and the FTC gave approval and said, so I don't know if you're familiar, you can't make a health claim unless you have clinical data to back it up. So the FDA says, yes, you can say you can reverse type 2 diabetes. Yes, you are allowed to say you improve blood pressure. Yes, you can use the term metabolic synchronization and that you improve metabolic dysfunction. You are allowed to say that. So we're thrilled with that. I love it because it's in my veins as far as not just being a weight loss coach, but being a metabolic coach. So that's they figure no, the scientific shows that 90% of Americans have at least one metabolic disorder. That could be blood pressure, it could be increased weight, it could be increased waist circumference, high triglycerides, low LDL, or not low, low HDL. Those are all metabolic disorders. And 3 of those then warrants the diagnosis of metabolic dysfunction. So we can improve all of that. And because they're all connected.
Well, you sort of took my next question, and I don't know if you'd like to add to that, is you mentioned being a metabolic coach. How is that different?
It's different than just being a weight loss coach. For instance, all my new clients, I send them a metabolic scale. So often I will have a client say, "Oh, my weight didn't change. My weight didn't change." Well, did you take your measurements? Well, yes, my waist went down another inch, but the scale didn't move. And it's like, well, the scale didn't move. If your weight didn't change and you're losing inches, then you're losing fat and gaining muscle. Because if you're losing something, you're losing fat and gaining muscle. Muscle takes up less room than fat. So that's why you're losing inches. My own story when I started working out with a trainer is in 16 weeks, just like our trial did, in 16 weeks, I lost 2 pounds and I was incredibly disappointed, kinda. When I found out I lost 8 pounds of fat and gained 6 pounds of muscle, hence a 2 pound difference, I was overjoyed with that because I needed new clothes because everything was falling off. And so that's what we coach. We coach just, obviously portion control, but we also coach movement. So we talk about healthy habits, and that's what we coach around. So obviously nutrition's a big factor, but movement. So we need to become a perpetual motion machine. We used to, farmers used to eat, big breakfasts and they would be in the fields all day long. They were probably getting 20,000 steps, and we all have a hard time getting 10,000 steps anymore. And just moving, we've become so sedentary. I always suggest to people who sit at a desk, set a timer for 30 minutes. And every 30 minutes, get up, walk around, drink a half a glass of water. That's hydration. That's another healthy habit. And then come back to you. But walk for 5 or 10 minutes after every meal. That's huge to do that after a meal.
Well, I want
Mindset.
to say
Yeah.
something about that when you say about walking. For those of you that work for a company or a corporation or something like that, one thing that Mike does when he's in Kentucky and he's at the office right there in the mornings, he'll take a break and he always takes the stairs. He's on the 3rd floor and he always takes the stairs and he goes outside. He walks the parameter of the parking lot and then he comes in because he sits at a desk all day and you don't think about it, but just get up, go, walk out, go around the parking lot and you get fresh air, which is healthy for you too.
Sunlight.
And come back in.
Exactly. That's it. That's excellent. That's excellent. So I always tell people, I said, sitting is the new smoking. It is so damaging to the cardiovascular system that we need to move. We need to get up. Airplanes, where you're traveling long distances and long time, it's like certainly they have no problem with you getting up and walking up and down the plane. In fact, they encourage it. They don't tell everybody. They should probably say, everybody get up and walk up and down the plane. That would be a fiasco, but just to keep moving, keep the circulation moving because otherwise you become stagnant and could you risk blood clots, things like that. But you'll hear a lot about 10,000 steps, but if you can get at least 7,000 steps a day, they've shown that that's very beneficial. But I aim for 10. So.
Well, and something you also said, in December, and I do this, I think, every 2 to 3 years, where they do an ultrasound of my arteries and everything like that. People don't think about that. Most insurance don't pay for it. You got to pay for it out of your pocket,
Right.
But the thing of it is that you don't realize what kind of plaque buildup that you have in there. And so I think that's another thing that is important to know that. And when you were talking about flying, we're planning a trip, my national championship team and I, to Hattiesburg, Mississippi in March. And we were talking about driving. It was going to be 6.5, 7.5 hours. And then we're talking about flying, and one of the members was saying that, that she takes blood thinners, and I didn't know what that meant, but blood thinners and sitting for a long period of time is not healthy. Is that true?
Very, very true. So she's taken a blood thinner because she's at risk for clots. So
Right.
sitting puts you at risk for clots. So
Lots.
she needs to keep moving and get, have her circulation moving around. If I'm going to be sitting for a long time, I've got bands. So I'll, do some stretch bands. Sometimes I'll put them around my knees and do some stretches that way, or, that's a way of doing things not while you're driving, but while you're a passenger. Obviously not when you're driving.
Well, before I go to this next question, I want to ask you another question referring to your health coaching, and especially your metabolic coaching. Um, do you have like how many, maybe 4 or 5 categories that you focus on when you're coaching with people? So to give our audience or listeners, I mean, we hear of health coaches, we hear of holistic, we hear of this, we hear of that. I mean, what makes you different than everybody else? What is it that you cover and do? Can you be a little more specific, Clare?
Well, what makes a difference is now we can say we are the only clinically validated metabolic health system in the world. And we are, they're talking about possibly going out to other countries. But I see this as a potential where a doctor could prescribe our health plan and insurance would pay for it. And this is because of the clinical data we have, this is moving to that direction. So what makes this difference is that everybody gets a coach, and they have shown that working with a coach, working with a coach. So the clinical trial said that people working with a coach had 10 times more weight loss and 17% more fat loss than if they tried to do it alone without the help of a coach. What does a coach do? I certainly encourage people, but I also remind people to work on your why. Why is this important for you? Okay, I want to lose the weight. Why is that important? I want to feel better in my clothes. Why is that important? How would you feel if you felt better in your clothes? What would that do for you? That type of thing. So working with people's whys. A lot of people, I've got a client right now that the weekend is her weekend. Her failing point, and I've got to go back. Your why is you want to be healthy for your grandchildren. And is this the way is this a good plan that you're overeating and drinking beer on the weekend?
Right.
So we have everybody has a coach. We have a community of people that support people, where people log into a private Facebook page and can ask questions. They can search for recipes, that type of thing. Our habits of health is what we coach around. So Dr. Wayne Scott Anderson developed this habits of health plan some over 30 years ago, and we've positively impacted over 3 million people because of this. He was the first board certified critical care doctor, and he left the ICU because he got so tired of treating heart attacks. He left to prevent heart attacks. So he's developed this program. And he's a big proponent of being the dominant force in your own life. And so does life happen to you, or does it happen for you?
Right.
And this is, what we help. Sometimes people have a difficult time with family, just how kind of guide them to think about, where they're going, where they want to be, and where they're going.
So,
Yeah. Fourth
sorry.
factor is what we call fueling. So we do have scientifically designed food that helps people in the beginning to get on path, to get on track, to get on the path. It takes away the guesswork of counting calories and counting macros, because usually that leads to failures when people have to put that much work into their nutrition. So if we can kickstart people's health plan going, and then we peel off the food and introduce whole foods, so we end up gearing towards a Mediterranean health plan, and that's been proven to be excellent for cardiovascular and health.
Absolutely. We definitely love the Mediterranean. So we got a couple of questions, Claire.
Okay.
One is, does insurance pay for a coach or a dietitian, or do you fall under a category that insurance would pay for that?
Not at this current time, but I see that happening. So 40 years ago, our parent company was Medifast. I don't know how many people remember that, but when I was practicing as a diabetes specialist, Medifast was around and doctors could prescribe Medifast for their gastric weight loss patients, patients that were going to have gastric bypass. They started on Medifast so that they could learn how to eat smaller
Oh,
meals and
wow.
drink a shake and things like that. That was covered by insurance back then. Where we see this happening again because we've been clinically proven.
Absolutely. Well, I would think insurance companies, would offer that. And I want to say that some of them, we get stuff in the mail from ours all the time where they offer coaching or something. I don't know if it's contracted out or what it is, Claire, out because I tear it up. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But anyways, so my next question is, with so many changes in the national healthcare system, are there any benefits for Americans in the future for healthcare?
Ooh,
So that was
that's
somebody in the audience.
that's a loaded question. And that's it's funny. We have the funniest discussions at where I work at it. And it's like if doctors were paid to keep people healthy instead of treating people that were sick, this world would be so very different. And I'm seeing more and more physicians going to a concierge type of format where you pay a subscription monthly or yearly, and you have unlimited access to them. And their goal is to keep you healthy. Not necessarily they're there if you get sick, but their goal is to keep you healthy. And slowly we're starting to wake up to that. And I think a lot of things are going on right now that are waking people up to the detriment of processed food, the detriment of artificial sweeteners and colorings and additives. And we're starting to wake up. So I'm grateful to see this happening.
Absolutely. And I would think somebody needs to get with the healthcare system because all the money that people are spending on medications for their health, where if somebody could hold them accountable and work with them as a health coach or holistic, whatever it is, metabolic, that it would lower their insurance premiums and their cost of their medicine every month, because a lot of people can't even afford their medicine.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's a big debate now that um, there's no money in wellness.
Right.
And it's, a lot of people slam, and, I'm from pharmacy, people slam the pharmaceutical industry that there's no money in keeping people well.
Right. Well, let's move on. I don't think my doctor has ever mentioned anything related to metabolic health, or has he or she?
Well, I'm sure he has. If he checks your blood pressure, he takes your weight, he measures your cholesterol. He probably does inflammatory markers like a C-reactive protein, that type of thing. So those are all metabolic indicators of how your health is doing. And so often I hear, oh, my doctor says my labs are fine. What does fine mean? And so, if your fasting blood sugar is just a tiny bit above normal, why are we waiting? Why are we waiting till it gets, or if it's like 1 point below normal, why are we waiting?
I mean, yeah, it's just a time bomb getting ready to kick off. What I don't understand, and you just said it, hit the nail on the head, that the doctors, oh, everything's fine, everything's fine. A little bit, they go over mine, a little bit high here, a little bit low here. Last year at this time, you were better, you were worse, yada yada yada. But I think we have to educate people like me and you to ask more questions to the doctor. And that's, we don't know what to say. We're here seeing a doctor. They're saying everything's fine. And even though they pointed out some issues, okay, I'll walk more, I'll exercise more, I'll try to eat better. And that's the end of the discussion and you leave. Am I
Mhm.
right?
Right. Absolutely right. And it's funny that since we've been clear to say we promote metabolic synchronization, so many people say, I don't know what metabolic health is. And it's just like, well, yeah, you do. We've just never called it that way.
Right. I agree with you.
Mhm.
So I hear you talk about healthy habits. What are some examples?
So we talked a little bit about that. So nutrition, hydration, movement. Notice I didn't say exercise, movement, sleep. Oh my gosh, sleep. Surroundings, and then mindset. And I think probably the most important is mindset. So I try to ascertain, where are people on the spectrum? Do you eat to live or do you live to eat? And so the people that live to eat, let's see if we can go the other way type of thing. And we shake our head. We were at a concert this summer and I shake my head where the woman sat forward in the seat ahead of me so that her husband could take up a seat and a half. And then she's sitting forward because they're both wider than the seat. And it's like the whole row was like that. I'm going, wow, can I just pass out my card here? And it's like I don't mean to laugh, but it's I just shake my head because it's become so normal where that's my biggest struggle is how do you get somebody to care? And that's where if Celeste, if you gained 50 pounds in 1 month, you'd probably be on the phone calling me saying, how do I get rid of this? But because people gain 5 pounds a year for a couple of years, they become comfortable with it. And so many people have become comfortable being unhealthy. And that's what's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, when do we say enough is enough? I mean, and you're right. I mean, I look back when Mike and I got married. Mike weighed 155 pounds. I know exactly how much he weighed, and I weighed maybe 105. And I don't mind, but I'm one of those people, Claire. I don't mind telling everybody, I weigh 150, and I have been 150 for years. I might go 152. I might drop down to 148, but I never jump way up there or go way down. I mean, no matter what I try to eat or try to do, I think it's movement is what make me lose weight. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's, similar to what you were saying, my weight doesn't move much at all. Holidays, it might go up 2 pounds. But I got a metabolic scale myself. I bought myself the same one that I give to my clients. And my fat percent is way up there. It's in the red. So it gives you color coded. So I kind of attribute that to I didn't go in the gym for 3 years because I went through shoulder surgery and then back surgery. So I wasn't doing weights at all. And so for 3 years. So I think that accumulated to fat. So I'm working on that though. So now I see a visual and I know I don't need to reduce my weight. I just need to get in the gym more often and do weights and things like that and get my cardiovascular activity going a little more. So it's starting to budge. So, but
We have
that visual.
we have a question from the audience. Does Claire offer patient assistant programs?
I do not because I can't bill insurance.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
So
Good.
I'm hearing more about the importance of sleep. What are some tips you use for people struggling to get enough good sleep? And I got a boatload of questions for you with that.
I struggled with that for years, especially when I went back for my doctorate. I was getting 4 hours of sleep a night, and I could tell. And I apologize to my children for screaming, but which short-ended type of thing. But that's one of the healthy habits we talk about. And then I'll ask people, what do you do? How's your sleep? Do you wake up refreshed? So a lot of people say, I sleep 8 hours, but I feel terrible when I get up. That's metabolic dysfunction. Something's off. Um, so I encourage people to what we call sleep hygiene and get into a routine of turning off all screens at least an hour before you go to bed. Because that screen light activates your brain and it takes at least an hour for your brain to settle down and relax. Obviously, no screens in the bedroom, no TV in the bedroom. If you've got the TV on all night, your brain never rests. So that's something to, stop the screens an hour before you go to bed. Develop a relaxing routine, excuse me, where you might read instead of looking at your phone. Certainly you don't really want to look at your phone where, your brain is activated, or look at email where you're thinking too much. It's time to relax, have a cup of tea, or, watch the caffeine, with limit any caffeine later in the day, that type of thing. So there's tips and things that you can do with that.
Well, and everybody is different with their sleep. You know, I didn't need a lot of sleep in my younger years, and it's only been like in the last 10 years that I need more sleep. And my husband's only he sleeps, if he's lucky, he sleeps 6 hours at the most. He's up at between 4 and 4:30 every morning.
Wow.
He goes to bed between 9:30 and 10,
Yeah.
but he's up at 4:30. He just does a lot of work before he works on work, and he's on the computer all day long. But he's the type that he could put his head down. He could be on that computer or watching TV or working a puzzle. And when his head hits that pillow, I mean, within a minute, you could hear the snoring. I mean, I even take the and it's like, how could you be asleep?
I know. Does he wake up refreshed? That's a big question.
He really does.
Good.
And he snores when he goes to sleep, but it's like a light snore. And then myself now, I have noticed over the last year or so that I am snoring more. I had a sleep study test last week. And because and I went to the doctor, I guess my airways right here is real narrow. And I can't sleep on my back. I have to sleep on my side because I would suffocate, I guess, if I slept on my back.
And you know what can improve that?
Well, tell me.
A little bit of weight loss.
Thank you. Okay.
Just think about that. So the throat is being closed by excess fat.
Fat. Go ahead and say it. Fat.
Fat.
Be transparent, authentic. All right.
Yeah, we hear a lot of people that they come off their CPAP machines after they lose weight.
We don't use any CPAP machines or anything like that. I do take a little melatonin at night to go to sleep, and Mike doesn't, but I do because I can't go to sleep because he's snoring.
Yeah.
But the weight, definitely, as I said, I would give anything to lose about 25 or 30 pounds.
Maybe
So
we should talk.
we'll talk on that.
Okay.
So sleep is important though. So some people need more sleep than others. What is an ideal? I mean, and like you say, are you waking up refreshed or not? And and that's one thing. So, and this is for our audience, because I'm sure I'm not the only one, especially if you're married or whatever, and you sleep together and one snores, the other doesn't, or you both snore. Are you getting good sleep or whatever? But when Mike gets up at 4:30, I'm the type of person, if I wake up at that time, because he gets out of bed, I'm up. I can't go back to sleep. I cannot, close my eyes and fall back to sleep and sleep 2 more hours. I'm just up. And so therefore, I'm only getting 6 hours sleep. Now, when he's gone, I sleep 8 hours.
Good.
So,
yeah, and that's where, they say you should get at least 7 hours of sleep, and that depends on the individual. But if people are sleeping 4 hours a night, that is not enough. And people say, "Oh, I can function on 4 hours." No, you really can't.
Well, and that's something that's really impressed me here lately is, and more I've been reading about it, is how important sleep is. I mean, you see these memes on social media. Your mother in the 80s or 70s, whatever it is, would go out all night and party and do this and dance on speakers and go into work, then work all day the next day, and now the younger generation here, they can't even go into work on time, but some of them. But, everybody has a different need of sleep. But sleep, I think, is one of the key things, as well as your diet and portion control in living a healthy, long life.
Exactly. Exactly. They're finding that longevity is attached to people who are sleeping well, people that are active, people that hydrate. So, staying hydrated is very important. If you're not hydrating, your body tends to conserve fluid by conserving fat in the fluid that's in the fat. So people that are not losing weight, sometimes just increasing water intake will help them to lose weight.
Help you lose weight. Well, and hydration is so important, for your kidneys and your other organs and things of this nature. And, a lot of times your body goes into dehydration, and it can cause a lot of problems when you're dehydrated for your other organs and the stress that it puts on these organs.
Stress. Yeah.
Stress is what it is.
Stress is a killer.
And I'm going to go on to the next question, but for our audience and listeners, one thing that has really impressed Mike and I in the last couple of years is we've been reading and watching documentaries and everything about the blue zone and the people that live in the blue zone. I mean, we are fascinated with that. And the longevity of these people living in their 90s and hundreds and the different communities all over the world. So look up Blue Zone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love hearing about things in Blue Zone.
Did you see the documentary on Netflix about Blue Zone?
Probably not, but I myself have been reading more and more about people in the Blue Zone, where a lot of times it's the Mediterranean diet. It's the soils haven't been treated with glyphosate and things like that. But also there's community. There's more community in the zones, so that and good rest. So.
Well, and that's one of the things in the Blue Zone, and I won't say much about it, but about the social life and the community, that the people get together every single day. And, the women in certain cultures would get together and sew or do quilts or whatever it is that they do, or they work out in their gardens. They didn't drive everywhere. They walked everywhere they went, especially like in Italy and how those steep roads and everything that they're walking. And they're raising things in their gardens. And then in Japan, like they pay you to go take exercise classes in Japan, that they would all go and have this exercise class because the government would pay you to go do this. So it was really interesting. It's a documentary on Netflix. It's called The Blue Zone. There's only like 5 shows of it, but it's amazing.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
We have about 7 minutes. You mentioned mindset as a healthy habit. Tell us a little bit more about mindset, please.
Well, again, it's that spectrum of, do you eat to live or do you live to eat? I work with people. One of the first things I ask them is what is your why? Why do you want to get healthy? Why do you want to lose weight? Sometimes they don't want to lose weight. They just want to increase their muscles. So it depends on the individual. But is life happening to you, or is it happening for you? And that's one of the things Dr. A, our founder, is a proponent of. He has a monthly call that talks about being the dominant force in your own life. And that's where, like I said, is it life happening to you, or is it happening for you? Do you tend to react to things that are happening, or do you absorb them and pause, take a deep breath, and then follow up with that? So we call that the drama triangle versus the empowerment triangle. And so, I kind of ascertain where people are, and just, like Thanksgiving can be a big conflict for a lot of people. And some people say, well, my Aunt Gladys always pushes food at me, and this other aunt is another piece of pie. And it's, how do you approach it? Take a deep breath, first of all, and remember your why, and just say, I would love to have a piece of pie, but I'm focusing on my own health at this point. And next year I'll partake of your pie or, take one bite.
Take it home or something.
Yeah. And science shows that the pleasure of taste is only in the first 3 bites. So we kid around and say, make it a 3-bite Thanksgiving, and I don't need a whole piece of pumpkin pie. I love pumpkin pie, but I'm okay if I just have 2 or 3 bites. So, just ways that you can approach things like that.
All right. For all those that attend our Giordano Italian extravaganza, and there's like 6 or 7 desserts. You didn't hear all that, okay? They come with their own. They come with their own Tupperware to take it away. Okay.
Oh yeah, if you put a homemade Christmas cookie, shortbread cookie in front of me, it's going to get eaten. But I'll only have one.
So Claire, we've got about 5 more minutes. So what makes what you do different than other programs?
So we talked a little bit about that. So everybody gets a coach. And so I'm your accountability partner, and I absolutely love doing that. I contact new clients daily on the first couple of days, and then at least weekly thereafter. I'm always available. I so often I will get screenshots come through on my phone where people are at the grocery store. They say, "Hey, is this dressing okay? Is this marinara sauce okay?" And that's exactly what I want them to do instead of guess. So I work side by side and I call people at least once a week, see how they're doing, see if they have any problems. I'll touch on a healthy habit, that type of thing. So we work through that type of thing. Just a community of people support you, and that's what they've shown in the blue zones. That people who have a community of support do much better than people that are isolated. And they said loneliness is one of the most detrimental characteristics that somebody can possibly experience because as we age, sometimes we lose our connections to our friends. Um, so that's what's different. So again, we're the only clinically validated metabolic health company in the world. So I'm so excited about that we're moving forward with that. We're changing some of our aspects, but come in the summer, they're going to reformulate some of the fuelings and add, along with prebiotics, they're going to add postbiotics, things like that have been validated to improve health.
Very good. So we have 3 minutes left. And before I ask this last question, tell our audience and listeners how they can reach out to you. Do you offer a consultation with them or a complimentary call? Claire, tell how they can reach out to you, please.
Yeah, if they want to reach out to me, I think Penny was going to put my contact information in there. They can reach out by email or by text me on the phone or by email. And I have a complimentary health assessment that I can send people.
All right. Would you go ahead and verbally say what it is for them as well, please?
It's a link.
No, so, yeah, Claire, A Better Life, your company name, phone number.
A Better Life RX. My email is clarerx@live.com. And my phone is 513-368-9012. And granted, I don't always answer the phone if I don't know who it is. So leave me a message or send me a text message would be best.
So we have,
and I'm also on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, look up Clare Schmurr. That's probably a really good way of contacting me as well. Plus, you'll get information like recipes and tips and things like that.
Absolutely. I enjoy following you on your social media sites. And again, for our audience and listeners, it's Clare Schmurr, A Better Life RX, 513-368-9012, and ClareRx@live.com. It's a new year, it's a new you, and you can only hold yourself accountable. It's your decision on whether you want to do something about your health. You're not where you're at because your parents, your spouse, your children, you're where you're at because of you and you only. take responsibility, take accountability. And, you know, two hands make more noise than one. And as a business coach, you know, every business needs a business accountability coach. And in a health world, you need a you need a health coach that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to guide you, direct you, educate you. And as you heard Claire talk today, she opens herself up. Her clients, they text her. So she's working with them outside the realm sometimes of just a accountability call. And that says volume about you. And that's what I love about you, Claire. And thank you so much for joining us here today. And I want to thank Penny Rogers and our WCEG Network family for the opportunity to bring Claire on the show here today. And let's make a difference and let's make a change in our life this year, because if you don't have your health, you don't have life. And I think when Claire said, what's your why? Your why is, my why is, I want to live a long, healthy life. I want to be here longer, you know, than the average person. And I want to enjoy my life. And the way I want to enjoy my life is to be able to do things and have the energy to do these things. And if we're not paying attention to our health, you're not going to have the ability to do the things you want to do. You hear people want to go travel to Europe and do this and do it while you're young before you get old because you won't be healthy enough to walk and do those things. Don't be that person. So
Amen.
with that, right? So with that, let's have a happy, healthy, prosperous 2026. Also, want you to make sure on January 27th, I'm bringing back Sarah Poe. She's the 411 of your taxes. And we'll be coming live from Miami on that one. And Claire, thank you again for being with us
Very
today.
welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.